The anxiety is 10 out of 10. Week 9, he's like, yeah, man, I don't know what to say. It's at 0 now.
0?
Yeah, it sounds insane, but it's like, that's what he told me.
Wow.
And we
He was high.
probably, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that like there's no bias in his own rating. But like, that is the rating he did give
No,
me.
that's awesome, man. I mean, I'm giving you a hard time, like I'm making a joke of it, but like that's amazing. Welcome to All Can, No Can't, the podcast where we toss out excuses, face our fears, and reclaim control. I'm Jeff Luther, your guide to mastering the chaos and turning obstacles into opportunities. Whether you're an entrepreneur navigating the ups and the downs of building a successful business, or someone ready to rewrite the rules of your life, this is your space to grow, to push boundaries, and to embrace doing the hard shit that leads to greatness. Together we'll explore stories of resilience, strategies for overcoming, and the mindset shifts that let you build a life on your terms. I use my experience with a life-altering diagnosis to help you find the can in every can't. So buckle up, because it's time to stop living in can't and start thriving in all can. You choose. Welcome back to All Can, No Can't. I'm your host, Jeff Luther. This show is about resilience, ownership, perspective, and the moments that challenge us to rethink who we are and what is actually possible. I say it every episode, this is about finding the opportunity in the obstacles. And obstacles in our lives are not circumstances, they're stories. They're really beliefs that we've been carrying so long that we now mistake them for the truth. And I'm like the king of limiting beliefs. And today's guest believes that many of those beliefs can simply disappear. And I say that for no better way to phrase it. Joel Bein is the founder of Human Liberation and host of the Joel Bein Show. He works with entrepreneurs, high performers, to identify and remove limiting beliefs around self-worth, money, stress, imposter syndrome, and success. He describes this process as making beliefs disappear permanently, like the day that we found out Santa Claus was not real. And I'll be honest, I don't completely understand how this is possible. Like I said, I'm the master of limiting beliefs, which is exactly why I want to have this conversation. So let's get super curious. Joel, I'm so excited to talk to you, man. And thank you so much for carving out time to be on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. I just love podcasts and having a down-to-earth, honest conversation, authentic conversation, which I can tell that you're all about. So let's do it.
Yeah, it's funny. When I do these shows, when I have someone that I know is like going to be a great guest and a fun conversation, I try to limit the conversation. And you and I have been redirected 3 times before I hit the record button. And I kept saying, no, wait, let's record. And then we would start talking again. So this should be good.
Totally. I'm excited.
All right, man. So like I'm so curious, I'm so excited, and I'm so skeptical. And the reason I'm skeptical is because this is a real problem for me. A real problem. Like I know I have limiting beliefs. I know I have them. I know what some of them are. I don't know what some of them are, but I know they're there. And like, I mean, I've worked with a hypnotist. I've done all kinds of stuff. So I'm totally open to this, and I'm really super charged up to dig in. You say that you make limiting beliefs disappear permanently, and your phrase is like Santa isn't real. And it took me a second to get that. That's like, that whole disappointing feeling when you're like, son of a bitch, like he's really not real. Is that what that means?
Yeah, I mean, it just means that it never comes back. So once you realize Santa Claus is not real, then you don't come back to next Christmas and you're not reevaluating it, right? So the belief is permanently gone ever since you have that moment as a kid. And so that's like the metaphor that I introduce people with. And yeah, it's definitely like that value proposition of permanence and all that. It typically evokes a sense of intrigue as well as skepticism. That's the typical reaction, totally understandable. And I would say that I've actually been reshaping a lot of how I'm talking about this lately. And I think a lot of people, like yourself, there are a good chunk of people that know they have beliefs. But then there's like a lot of people that just don't even think about beliefs. It's just more like their day-to-day life. And I'm really wanted to empathize more and more with people's actual day-to-day experience and how I can actually help that. And it's like, what are entrepreneurs really, struggling with? Often it's, it's like cash flow anxiety. It's sleepless nights with your thought loops and racing mind, worrying about your to-do list and how you're going to make payroll, or just not spending enough time with your kids because you think you need to be putting in all these hours and you're grinding and hustling and you just assume that you just got to put up with it. So that's like the symptoms. There's like these negative thoughts, negative emotions that entrepreneurs and everybody is really struggling with around this planet, but entrepreneurs in particular, because it's this uncharted territory that you're forging by definition. And so it can stimulate, it can trigger these different beliefs in you that are the root cause of the stress or of the racing heart or racing mind. And then we entrepreneurs often, we just assume that it has to be like that. There's like meta beliefs, like entrepreneurship has to be hard. And so we just assume we don't need to put up with it. And then, like you said, some people might try a lot of things to help resolve and alleviate these types of symptoms, whether that's some talk therapy, some hypnosis, some meditation, some breath work, morning routines and workouts and habit change and
affirmations.
That's the big one.
Yeah,
that's the big one. And so a lot of these things, they don't actually get to the root. And so it's more about adding in, and what I'm doing is subtracting the root cause. So I can get more into that. But
okay. Yes, you hit on several things there. One thing I would like to add, and you can tell me what your thought is about this. Entrepreneurs, they, like me in my business, I don't know what next month looks like because I've never been there. When you're at Taco Bell or you're in a job where you're not responsible for everything, you kind of know what next month looks like. Next month looks like 40 hours a week and you get a paycheck, and that's kind of about it. Work might be a little bit different, but there's some consistency there for you. And I think with entrepreneurs, what we do is we don't know what's going to happen next. We have no control or no certainty. And the brain makes shit up. Like it wants to have a story. So it makes a bad story that protects us and tells us what we need to do to stay safe. And it's always like worst case scenario. Do you and I agree on that, or am I off?
Yeah, the brain is reacting to what it's perceiving, but the reason it's reacting is because it's got a belief that stemmed from decades ago, most likely.
The saber-toothed tiger outside of your cave.
Yeah, and like more specifically though, for like even the modern world, it's just like, we go through traditional school, and there's a lot of emphasis on that predictability, order, discipline, the right way to do things, control, conformity, check the boxes, right? That's the industrial factory assembly line system. And so almost all our limiting beliefs are created by age 7, but then more are created after that as well. But like going through, I can't tell you how many people, including myself, I've seen these limiting beliefs they're tracing back to kindergarten and first grade around like self-worth being tied to doing it the right way, for example.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we don't want to disappoint
people. And failure being unsafe, right? Or it's not okay to fail, because you got plenty of people I've talked to, it's like they got in trouble because they got a bad grade on their report card in 5th grade. And so then when they experience that, their parent is upset at them, and there's pressuring them to get better grades, right? And so then that's triggering the survival system, right? Because a child needs to stay and then attached to his caregivers and needs acceptance, belonging, love, safety, right? So it creates these beliefs to navigate when there's all these expectations from adults. And so then, not even to mention all the beliefs about money that you ingest from your parents and maybe school, and beliefs about working and idleness is the devil, and the way to be successful is to work hard.
Yeah, and that's like something you talked about a second ago. Work has to be hard. So I'm one of those people that work is relative to how much dirt you take out of a ditch. It has to be hard, because if it's not hard, then you're not contributing, which is such a fallacy.
Yeah, I like to make the distinction between two types of hard. And there's hard, which is tangible and concrete, right? So in terms of digging that ditch, the tangible concrete is how much dirt has been removed, right? That is like evidence that something has been accomplished, right? That's like hard evidence that we have accomplished something. And then there's the other definition of hard, which is straining, stressing, scrambling, feeling ungrounded, feeling resistance in the body, feeling friction, pain, grind, these types of descriptions of essentially unpleasant physiological experiences. And so there's a lot of assumptions that you won't get the success or the desired end unless you're willing to endure that experience of the physiological strain, strife, and stress, right? So when you can actually clear these beliefs out, then you no longer have those buttons that get pushed, right? And so the mind's going to go into that making up stories mode. All those like racing thoughts won't happen anymore when you deactivate the root cause. You deactivate the buttons. You no longer get your buttons pushed by what's going on, by not knowing what's going to happen next month in your business. If you've let go of a lot of these stories, the more stories you let go of, the less buttons there are to get activated, and you can just actually be in the present moment and be calm, and you can still be taking the action that's necessary to dig that ditch or whatever you're doing. But you don't need to feel all of the stress.
Yeah, so as you let go of that belief, you're removing the button, which is the activator. If you have less buttons to push, then it makes sense that less get pushed.
Yeah, and it's just, again, helping people see that beliefs are the root cause. We have beliefs. The domino effect is beliefs, thoughts, emotions, actions, outcomes. Beliefs, thoughts, emotions, actions, outcomes.
Beliefs, thoughts,
and so
actions,
it's because if you believe dogs are dangerous, because when you were a kid, you got bit by a dog and you never processed that, and then you created that story to survive and cope. So then you subconsciously believe dogs are dangerous, and then you're 20 years later, you're out and about, you see a dog, maybe consciously you're like, oh, that dog's cute, but subconsciously you believe this, so there's a button that gets pushed. So then you feel anxiety and you think, maybe don't go pet that dog, and then you avoid petting the dog, and then you miss out on the experience of petting the dog, right? You miss out on the outcome, the desired outcome, petting the dog. Instead, you're in a fear state and you avoid the dog, right? So it's the same thing with, a lot of entrepreneurs struggling with like putting things off, procrastination, like there's a project that they want to do, their true self wants to do it, but then there's this resistance. Well, if you believe deep down that work has to be hard, or it's not okay to fail, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy of success, and dozens or hundreds or thousands of other beliefs, all in a cluster in similar variations, all of that's going to it's creating the physiological like resistance, and that propensity to avoid it, doing the project, then creates the procrastination, and then you don't get the outcome that you would have gotten if you had actually just had the debris removed from the runway. Then the plane can take off. But you have all this friction, all this debris internally, and so you never actually take off to experience what you want to experience and achieve your desires and dreams. Because there's like, in case of procrastination, like that becomes one of these symptoms. The action and the outcome are a result of the root cause beliefs around self, success, failure in work, and so forth, and money, right, that are actually the root cause of the friction.
Right. And one other thing that you said early on was that some people say they don't have limiting beliefs, which I find that hard to believe. But is it possible that they've gotten so entrenched in their beliefs and they no longer recognize them as a belief? It's just a fact.
Well, what I meant was like people don't identify or know what the beliefs are specifically. They might have some semblance of, yeah, I probably have that, but they've never really gone in and investigated it specifically. It's not a particularly sexy thing to do. So I've realized that,
I think it is. Like, I think the total opposite of that.
Well, I think it is, but I think a lot of people, I'm seeking to be more and more empathetic with where a lot of people are at when it comes to, they're interested in their business success. They're interested in money and supporting their family, and then, but no, I mean, I think that some people do also just fuse with those limiting beliefs, and they just don't even realize that they're there.
Yeah.
And they kind of get buried, and they might actually have a meta limiting beliefs that they don't have limiting beliefs, and it's just like, yeah, I'm good, and it's like those people aren't ready to do the deeper work. Then there's people who are like, yeah, this is I know that there's something going on here. I had a client, Shane, who was like a high performance sales coach, making good money on paper. Then he came to me, he's just feeling stressed, anxious. Every time he's looking at his bank accounts, he's just feeling that racing heart, and he's worried about taking care of his family. That's what he's knowing is a problem, because he's knowing it's not rational, because he knows he's making enough money, but he's feeling so stressed out about it. So he didn't necessarily know that he had specific beliefs, but then he came to me with those symptoms, and then it's like, okay, let's go find the specific subconscious beliefs that are actually the cause of the symptoms. And it's like, if you believe deep down the way to be safe and secure is to have money, that's going to be a fundamental belief that's going to be triggering anxiety and fear and so forth. Or if you just believe, I don't have enough money, or you believe I'll never have enough money, or that money is evil, or that rich people are greedy, or things like that, or I don't deserve money. And then all those beliefs, again, create this cluster that contributes to the anxiety. And so, yeah, once we cleared those beliefs for Shane, like it's like brings me a smile just thinking about it, because it's just so beautiful every time I hear the feedback. Like, I typically work with people 1 hour a week for 12 weeks. By week 9, he was just like, yeah, man, I don't, like week 1, he's like, the anxiety is 10 out of 10. Week 9, he's like, yeah, man, I don't know what to say. It's at 0 now.
0?
Yeah, it sounds insane, but it's like, that's what he told me.
Wow.
And we
he was high.
Probably. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say that like there's no bias in his own rating. But like that is the rating he did give
no, me. That's awesome, man. I mean, I'm giving you a hard time, like I'm making a joke of it, but like that's amazing. It's not true in my world. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like it's like, wow, that's so cool.
And he came back. He recorded a video testimony on my website like 2 years later, 3 years later. And
is he the Netflix dude?
No.
Okay.
But
the dude, I forget the dude's name, but the dude that's the Netflix star said that you changed his life. Like, yeah, those were his words. You changed his life.
Yeah. Well, Shane, what I was going to say for Shane is that he specifically told me that years later that the beliefs were still gone. And that's the other thing I want to highlight for people. So wow. Maybe it was somewhat of a high, but it was also, he literally says in the video 2 to 3 years later, the beliefs are still gone years later. And that's my experience. I've cleared almost 2,000 beliefs for myself in the past 5 years. And the beliefs don't come back. And we can talk more about how that works.
Yeah. Yeah, what exactly are you doing? Like, what happens inside someone's mind? I don't even know. I'm asking you a question. You're going to tell me the answer, and it's going to go right over my head. So I don't.
Yeah, I mean, the best way for people to understand it is to experience it. So I'm happy to share about some of the actual principles of it. But it's not. I just want people to know that it's not necessary to really understand exactly the mechanism.
Right.
But I'm not gonna hide that, and I just share openly on my podcast and my website like the different steps to do the 15-minute process. But it's like the main principle is that meaning is different than events. And so we go back to the example about the mom or dad's yelling at the 10-year-old about getting an F on the report card. The crux of the process is helping that person who believes failure isn't safe go back to that memory where they created it, and then help that 10-year-old kid like actually have a logical dialogue, and like helping him realize, is the concept failure isn't safe, does it exist anywhere in what you saw in that memory, in what you felt in that memory, in what you heard in the memory, right? So it's just like we have sense data, we have sights, sounds, and sensations that are happening in experiences, but the actual meaning is not happening in the sense data. So that's like the basic light bulb moment. It's like, can you actually see? Is there a big, is the concept, it's not okay to fail, actually hanging up on a big sign in the memory in that room? It's like, no, you just saw your dad and his facial expressions, and you saw this report card with the letter F on it. And it's like you saw things, but you didn't see this concept. You created this story in order to have that shortcut, that rule of thumb, to make sure you stay safe in the future. So you don't get the shame response or the fear response. This doesn't happen again, right? You avoid this pain again. It's really helpful in those adverse experiences for the child to create these beliefs. But we just go back, and 20 years later, and we're going back and having a logical conversation. Is Santa Claus actually real? Did you ever actually see the dude? You never actually saw that. You never actually saw it's not okay to fail. It's not safe to fail. You maybe felt fear in your body, but you didn't feel the concept. You just felt the fear, right? It's like breaking it all down, the difference between sense data and actual stories. And that's the big moment as the main crux of it. And then by the end, it's just the belief is gone. And that's why it never comes back. Because we've actually done a logical Socratic questioning process. And once we realize once that subconscious part realizes it's not true, then it never comes back.
So I've been an entrepreneur. I've owned my current business for 25 years. I've done different things in that time. I did some stuff before that. And for years, I thought I had this fear of failure. And I think as you grow, you learn more things. It's like, we used to use 386 and 486 computers, right? Like no one even knows what that is now. But as time goes on, we get smarter and we develop. But for years, I thought I had this fear of failure. And I was at this Tony Robbins event, where they do the fire walking event. I was at one of those, and before you go out and do the fire walking, you break a board, and it's like this. It's the symbolism of the breakthrough, right? So you have this board, you write something on it that's one of your fears, and then you break the board, and that's your breakthrough. And as they're going through and doing this thing to prepare you for it, and these things you're scared of, when I wrote on the board, I wrote fear of success. And I don't know if I've ever really had a fear of failure, but it was fear of success. So in your line of work, like how do you, and if you and I were working together, it could have been easy for me to misdiagnose myself. How do you peel back those layers? How do you identify what the real belief is?
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to those symptoms. Like, it's like maybe someone comes in and they want to consciously, they want to break through to double their revenue to like, $15K a month to $30K a month or whatever. But then they just find themselves, again, procrastinating or like just having an instance of imposter syndrome. Like just feeling some sort of internal resistance to actually doing the things that's going to get them there, or just having literal like fear about that level of success. And so we're just coming in with like, what do you want and what's getting in the way?
Yeah.
And then we go into the body, it's like, so you think about having 30K months, and there's part of you that feels freaking excited, man. feel desire, and like this is going to give me abundance. So that's the higher self. That's your true self. And then there's the other part of you. That's the fear part. That's the old self. That's like, I don't know. I don't think you actually deserve that. I don't think you can do it. How are you going to do that?
You haven't worked hard enough.
What's my family going to think about me if I actually? Are they going to start, asking me for money if I have more money? Like, am I going to lose friends? Like, those are like the deeper things that we start going in deeper into. It could be that someone has a belief, like the way to get love is to get approval. So if you believe that, which is very common, that could create like a people-pleasing mechanism, which could be directly connected to not wanting to stand out and make way more money than your friends or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be there's not going to be approval from your family of origin. But like we just connect to what are the symptoms, and then where's that happening in your body? Like when you think about that, where's that fear happening in your body? That's in my throat, that's in my rib cage. Okay. Ask that throat to, sort of sounds weird, but like if that throat could speak, what would it say? Right? And then we learn what that part of the psyche is actually experiencing. But yeah, I mean, it's really just getting into the conditioning where we let go of that old self, because the true self is like that little kid that's just playing in the sandbox. It's full of abundance, is full of possibility, creativity, and then we create these walls, Like I just created a big wall when I was growing up, with my mom was always screaming at my dad, and he was very disorganized, and then she was very like micromanaging, and she was stressed out and anxious all the time, and so there was always this like chaos and lack of feeling safe and secure. And so I just like stored a lot of this in my body, like this fear and this sympathetic like anxiety type thing, and then I just learned to not make conflict, because I saw them in conflict so much. So I ended up suppressing who I like, my true self. But I also ended up like doing the opposite of what my dad was. Like he was more passive and not organized and not very purpose driven, not an entrepreneur, not entrepreneurial. And I was like, I'm going to be the opposite of that.
Yeah.
So that was like, now I'm going to start like getting after it and being super organized and driven. Now, a lot of that was very authentic, natural. That's who I am, right? But some of that was the hustle culture. Some of that was the rejection of my dad. Some of that was like, what makes me worthy is doing it right, is having success, or whatever the thing is. Like getting all this, like this trauma response, this conditioned response, like being busy, being controlling, being in more of like that tense state. That was the unhealthy version of that purpose-driven energy, right? So there's healthy hustle, and then there's unhealthy hustle. The healthy hustle is that little kid who's like, let's do it, I want to do it, I want to create this, we're going to create this. Abundance, 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 drive, excitement. That's the true self. The old self, the false self, or the conditioned self is reacting, is defense mechanisms, is limiting beliefs that's caused from your childhood experience with
like
parents,
if I don't do this, then everything falls apart. Like if I don't. Is that what you mean by that?
Like you could have a belief like I'm not worthy of success, and that just comes from, again, it could be the F on the report card thing.
Yeah.
Some sort of message you got and you just took it on personally, but then like you try to compensate for that too. You're like, I'm gonna go drive, and now all of a sudden you're on this hamster wheel, trying to get to the next level of success or money, and maybe you still do that, but you still never feel like you deserve it, right? So that's the imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of different entry points into all the different patterns that people can have.
How often do people tell you one thing? Like you start working together, they tell you one thing. Well, I have this limiting belief of this. They tell you one thing, only that you discover that it's something like entirely different underneath. The reason I ask, it seems to me that would happen a lot. Am I off base?
No, I mean, we often need to do more investigation to find the root cause, because you can clear any belief in 15 minutes. And the real value that I bring to people is the art of finding the most important beliefs that are the most root striking, because you can clear any belief. Like I cleared the belief I hate laser tag. Like Because when I was a kid, I had an experience laser tag that wasn't very enjoyable, and I like jammed my thumb, and then like I lost, and like I hated it. So I created a belief I hate laser tag, and then I just happened to find that 20 years later for some reason, and I cleared it.
Oh,
and it's
wow.
like, great, I'm free of that belief now. But that's not the most important thing for me to be clearing when it comes to my overall goals in life. But like, what matters is, what are the beliefs that are the root cause, you know? So it's like, if you have beliefs about safety and love, you know, you could believe that, like, you could believe some things about money that are important to clear, but not the most important, right? It might be, maybe it's just like, I mean, like a belief like wealth is a privilege. Definitely worth clearing that.
Yeah.
But probably the deeper anxiety you have would be like, the way to be safe is to have money. It's like, if you believe that, then that's going to be creating constant anxiety.
Right.
And that's like, we're trying to make sure we get the highest priority beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about money for a second. I grew up, I always joke, I grew up what I call purple collar. We were almost blue collar, certainly not white. And there was always stress around money. But more importantly, negative comments. Like if someone, you know, we lived in a rural neighborhood, and if someone got, like, you know, like a new boat, I remember one of the neighbors got a new boat, and there was a snide comment made about the boat. If that gets wired into a kid, like, how do you unwind that decades later?
Yeah.
And that's probably that's probably a pretty big question.
I mean, we can do it for you if you want right now.
Yeah, I would love I would love to do that. I would like to figure out something that's not easy, but something that's obvious. And I think a lot of my stuff is like totally tangled up. I have a few more questions for you though.
Yeah. I think that that's like the most potent way for people to see how. And I've heard people, I've done workshops and other podcasts, and I've just done this as a live demo, also so people can maybe let go of their belief that that's not possible. So it's like, hey, we can actually just show you, and people vicariously participate through that 15-minute process of the belief clearing.
Yeah, I'm totally down
ask
for
any
that,
more questions.
Man. All right, so if I were to ask you, like, so in entrepreneurship, like, that is my world. Sounds like that's your world too. And you know, we all have the same problems. Like, I was talking to a dude yesterday, and we were talking about his Father's Day, and just suddenly he was like, yeah, you know, Mother's Day and Father's Day is so much different. And a lot of us felt that on Sunday. Father's Day and Mother's Day are total opposites. You know, Mother's Day is like breakfast in bed, pedicures, all this stuff. Father's Day is, you know, the dude out back flipping burgers on the grill. And so he immediately went into, you know, I get the privilege of taking them out to dinner for Father's Day. I get the privilege of going to soccer practice or whatever it is. And, like, you know, that's kind of an emotional response. Like, what did you expect? It sounds like we have a contract with our family for Father's Day, but they don't know that they've signed that contract. I say all that. Like, how much of entrepreneurship would you say is actually an emotional game?
Well, on that contract piece, I love that concept, because I think a lot of people sign up for contracts unconsciously about what entrepreneurship is.
Yes.
And what it's going to take. And that's like that meta belief about entrepreneurship is hard. Yeah. Entrepreneurship has to be hard. Business is hard. Success is hard.
Yeah.
These are all beliefs. There's no actual proof that that's true. Metaphysically, epistemologically, the people will say, well, look at all these experiences, and look how many people say it, and look at like the culture, and look at how the stress. It's like, yeah, that's what's normal. It doesn't mean that it has to be that way, right? So we're talking about the absolute. But yeah, I mean, people sign up for these contracts, and there's a lot of emotion that happens. I mean, I think you're driven by driven by your desires. I think a lot of people start businesses for a desire for freedom, for autonomy, but also purpose and creativity to be able to bring something into the world that's your own, in your own mind, you know.
Yeah.
That you thought of, and you want to share that. And it's an expression of self. It's definitely a lot of truth to the idea that it's like, it's one of the best ways for self-actualization, you know. So there's a lot of desire there. But yeah, the negative emotions are kind of those social contracts that you unconsciously take on.
Yeah.
That you're gonna have to put up with sleepless nights. You're gonna have to put up with extra hours. You're gonna have to put up with the strain, the stress, and the strife, and the busyness and the grind. And I don't invalidate that that's the experience for almost everybody. I've experienced it, but like my meta philosophy of the more beliefs is that I can clear beliefs that are actually the cause of that. So I just keep, as in my entrepreneurial journey, I just keep finding new little subtle beliefs that are the actual cause and letting go of that. And the more and more I step into my true self and let go of the conditioned self, then it's just, I'm just living, I'm just being. And you can still operate with purpose. It just gets to be a calm purpose. You get to have no noise in your head, and these racing thoughts don't need to exist. And you can just feel the desire and the creativity and the purpose that's your true self. So yeah, the emotional experience, you get to actually choose if you choose to deactivate the buttons, if you choose to unlearn the old self and do this deeper work, this deeper healing or letting go, whatever you want to call it, then you actually can be in a different paradigm, which is really what I'm all about, is like, let's create new paradigms. And so the paradigm of entrepreneurship has to be hard. See myself sort of as a pioneer of like a new way where entrepreneurship gets to be whatever you want it to be, you know. You choose the meaning that you give it. It doesn't have to be hard. It can be hard sometimes. I'm not saying it's never hard. It's just this idea that if you have this program that's running on your subconscious all the time as an absolute truth, like the dogs are dangerous thing, right?
Yeah.
Then it's just always going to be creating those thoughts, emotions, actions, and outcomes. So then you find yourself working extra. Like you talked on one of the podcasts I heard about, like, we can't just let ourselves be still because we're addicted to busyness.
That's what I was going to ask you a question around that.
Yeah. Oh man, it's such a good topic. Like,
then the dust settles.
Who's that? I think it was a guy named like Pascal who said like all of man's problems boils down to his inability to sit in a room by himself, like quietly. You know, can we actually just be still? And so there's these impulses. I gotta check email. I gotta create something new. I gotta X, Y, and Z, and it's because the subconscious has some sort of anxiety. Again, it's not to say that there's not value in doing that stuff. There's not, you know, I'm not discounting the value of hustle, right? So you can have healthy hustle, which is, I want to get after it and create this. And I am going to check this Slack and email, whatever, because I see that value, but I'm doing it from inspired action, not compulsive action. And so the compulsion is what we want to liberate, right? We can keep driving 100 miles per hour, but let's lower the parking brake so we don't have the friction. And so the addiction, the unhealthy hustle, is the limiting beliefs in the subconscious, the anxiety that's coming from beliefs like I'm not doing enough, I should be doing more, the way to be successful is to work hard, what makes me worthy is working hard, and all sorts of variations. And so then if you're just being still, those parts of you are yelling at you.
Right.
Do something. That's why you have an inner critic, is because of the beliefs. Inner critics are just running off the programs that they've learned that they thought would help you out. But they're just, even if consciously you know you don't need to be busy, you might be like, you know, you read a quote about like, it's not about busyness, it's about productivity, it's about don't mix those two things up. Work smart, not hard. Like, you can say all that stuff to yourself, like affirmations, right? You can just say all this stuff to yourself, but the subconscious is still holding on to these beliefs. And so then the impulse to do something in that moment, instead of just being still, or instead of just enjoying time with your family or whatever the case may be, you then fill that up and you get the dopamine hits and the scrolling or whatever. because there's this sympathetic nervous system energy that you need to numb, right? So if people listening are struggling with numbing habits, you know, you can like read James Clear's book on habits and try to change that. But if you're not actually addressing the reason you're having bad habits, the scrolling and the junk food or overworking, like addiction to busyness, whatever the thing is, it's like you need to get down into the root cause and pluck those mental weeds out, those limiting beliefs out. And then the more you do that, it's like, no, I don't want to scroll. I want to create the thing. I want to do something that matters to me, not because I use willpower and discipline to override that impulse, because the impulse isn't there. The buttons are deactivated. So you're not going to scroll mindlessly because you have nothing to numb anymore because you let go of the anxiety. Get me fired up.
Yeah, man. I just read a book, 4,000 Weeks.
Oh, I read that. It's so good.
It's so amazing, right? And it's not about, like, how do we manage time and do more? And the dude says, he's like, look, you know, the more you do, the more you realize, the more you can do. And that's the way this thing unravels. You just do and do and do. And there was a part in there where he talked about, like in the 1800s, you know, you woke up and you did this and you did this and you did this, and the sun went down, you couldn't do anything else. Yeah. He was like, if it's 1820 and I go over to my neighbor and say, hey, I'm going to milk my cows today for the rest of the month because I need to get ahead. Like, people are going to think you're absolutely nuts. But that's what we do now.
Yeah, that book is so powerful. And I read a bunch of books in that vein the past few years. So I'm going to list them because I want people to know about them.
I would love that.
Yeah, 4,000 Weeks by Oliver Burkeman. There's a book called Rest.
I'm also gonna say here, so also it gets done, is we will put these books in the show notes too. As you know, I've been coaching for a little over a year now, and my coach just laid something pretty heavy on me. They've challenged me to have 50 powerful coaching conversations booked within the next 30 days. So if you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed, maybe successful but unfulfilled, or you just need to talk something through with someone that you know will listen, then I would love to have that conversation with you. This is not a tactic. There's no sales pitch. It's just one powerful conversation. This is complimentary to you. So if you want in, send me a message and I'll send you the link. I got you.
Yeah. So Rest, subtitle is, I believe, How We Get More Done by Doing Less. And that's by Alex Pang. And then there's the book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by, I believe it's John Mark Comer. There's Slow Productivity by Cal Newport. Those four are a powerful quad of books along these lines about the value of unplugging, of allowing yourself permission to rest, allowing yourself permission to do hobbies and not just work all day, allowing yourself permission to, like in Slow Productivity, he's talking about just do fewer things, work at a natural pace, and obsess over quality.
Yeah.
And just choosing the one or two things that are the big things and allowing yourself a natural time frame to complete them rather than being in that scurrying of like just churn it out as fast as possible, like allow the natural pace to do that slower, deep work and do it at a high quality way. The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, it's from a millennial pastor dude. It's a really informal book, but he's cycling in the Bible verses, but it's speaking to any person, even if you're not religious, and it's really valuable stuff about just allowing yourself, like a weekly Sabbath and allowing yourself to slow down but it's really about the deeper thing is noticing the impulse to do rather than be, to do rather than rest. And so all those books, those have been like a meta, like blanket, like a meta like warm bath that I've enveloped myself in.
Hey, what do you mean when you say meta? Like a meta belief or a medicine? I'm ignorant when it comes to that.
Yeah, just meta, like the the thing that's above, like if we're talking about metaphysics, is like what we believe about how the world and the nature of reality. Do we believe in God? You know, if we're talking about the meta talk in a conversation, that would be like the thing that's the dynamic that's at play. You know, like there's a thing that's maybe not being said, but that's like the meta talk. You know, is like, hey, you and I are both on a podcast, and we're thinking about maybe doing a live demo clearing soon. And then like we also there's some, I don't know, there's not much meta talk here right now, but there's just like a thing that's above the thing. Meta belief would be like, you have a whole belief about the nature of entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurship is hard. That's like the entirety of entrepreneurship. Then you have like the regular beliefs about
it's hard because.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So the meta belief is that it's hard. And then these underlying beliefs was like it's hard because you don't have information. It's hard because you have to deal with employees or whatever the.
Yeah, there's different ways to look at it, but like, I guess with those 4 books, what I was getting at is like, it's also like, I'm thinking about it as, here's this body of work, this information about the value of rest and slowing down and so forth. And I'm like ingesting all of that, and it's going into my conscious mind, and it's going into my subconscious mind to a degree. And I'm finding what are the deeper subconscious limiting beliefs that might be opposed to the very ideas that they're espousing, right? So that's where, again, people trip up, where they think if they just use mindset, like affirmations or reframes, and like read books enough to help them change, whether it's like James Clear or any of the books I just listed, like that's helpful. It's helping you change your conscious beliefs. But you need to change your subconscious beliefs too, right? So you can talk all day, you can know. This has been a big part of my journey because I've had so much of the unhealthy hustle for a part of me. Even though I've known for a while a lot of the value of the relaxation. I know how to do self-care stuff, but then for the deeper work is continuing to like shave down that part of me that is like, no, you got to be working, man. You got to do like. So you keep on letting go and pulling out those mental weeds for that part of you that doesn't want to do this slow productivity or stop hurrying or whatever. And it's like, because that's, again, it's holding on to something that's a deeper.
Yeah.
So I'm just inviting people to recognize that you can read books like that and it's really valuable, not discounting that. The question is, are you doing it at both the conscious and the subconscious level for full integrated transformation?
Here's the challenge, though. Like 4,000 weeks. I loved the book from the first few words to the end, and then even the interview questions at the end. I read through that. Normally I don't. I'm like, oh, woo! I finished the book. But I need my competitors to read that book also. You know, that's the bitch of it. Yeah, I get it. I like it, and I want more of that. I need my competitors to be on the same page, because that's that comparison. You know that. Well, you know that's the story. Well, if I do this, then I get buried. If I do this, I get left behind. Which no, it's not true.
Yeah, that's a super valid perspective, and I think a lot of people have that. Where it's like there might be a reaction like, well, that's nice. Ideally, we could do that, but here's the real world. You know.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm dealing with in the business and the market, and like in the messiness of the day to day. And my colleague is not going to, he doesn't care about that at all, or my competitor or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, it's definitely, it's definitely an understandable concern or perspective, and I think the difference is like the difference between needing your competitors to be different versus wanting it, or that's a desire, but you can't control them, of course.
Right.
You can control yourself, and it's just recognizing at the end of the day, where are, what's in your sphere of control, and where are your boundaries, and like 4,000 weeks he's talking about like the efficiency trap, and if you just constantly trying to do inbox zero. And
Right.
Like if you're doing that, you're just going to make sure you get more and more emails.
That was it. And he was like, then all of a sudden you're dealing with like 1,500 emails a day.
Yeah, of course, the opposite of that would be just, if you're working in a like high, fast-paced startup and you're only checking email once every 10 days, then that could be an issue. But,
Yeah.
The deeper thing for me is just like, are you living from your conditioning or not? So
Yeah.
if you can clear that, now you can make choices and you can choose to play the game as you want. You can recognize, you know what, there's a whole bunch of people who expect me to do X, and I'm totally free. I'm living complete sovereignty because I know that I'm in charge of my choices. That's definitionally the truth. And I also have subconsciously cleared out the impulse to get approval from people or live up to the cultural narratives, the collective beliefs, if you will, about working and stuff. And so, I'm just free and I can choose to agree to the stories and the expectations of others or not, right? Just knowing that it's all a game, it's all cost benefit. The biggest thing that's in your sphere of control is liberating yourself consciously and subconsciously from the involuntary impulses and so forth, the autopilot. And then it's like, okay, yeah, I recognize that, there's a certain culture with email and Slack and so forth. And, I can get creative with how I interact with that my own way and communicate my own values or whatever. But like, there's not like a one size fits all answer to this question around how do you interface with the rest of the world that might not be interested in 4,000 weeks, that might not be interested in personal growth at this level. But all I know is that when you clear beliefs, you get freedom and you get discernment. It doesn't mean that it's like a misconception of people. If you clear beliefs that like work has to be hard or I'm not doing enough,
that you're an overnight success. You cleared the beliefs and then you're an overnight success.
No, it's like there's a fear that then now you're going to become the opposite.
Oh, that was my next question. Like, I think about that. If somebody no longer believes they're not enough or no longer believes that success has to be hard, is there some piece of us that worries about, oh, wow, well, okay, if I don't believe this, if I don't hang on to that belief, then who do I become? I mean, that's a little scary.
That can be scary for some people, and sometimes we need to empathize with that part of the psyche when we're doing the process.
That's our noise. That's our noise that distracts us. That's our busy, maybe. I don't,
Yeah, it's often just a familiar comfort zone thing.
Yeah.
And there's also just a literal myth and misconception that if you let go of the belief, then that means you're going to believe the opposite. So we're not saying if you let go of I'm not doing enough.
Yeah.
You're not going to believe I am doing enough. That doesn't mean that you are doing enough in all situations. It means you have freedom and discernment. So then you're not automatically filtering every moment as I'm not doing enough, no matter how much you do. But rather you're seeing, oh, I'm in this present moment, I can discern that maybe I'm not doing enough in order to complete this particular project by this particular date.
Yeah.
And so I am going to increase the amount I do today so that I can get, but it's becoming from intentional and purposeful action, not from the compulsion because you have the limiting belief. So the limiting belief is an absolute thing that's always taking up space on your operating system. It's creating the clutter, it's creating the noise, it's creating the fear, anxiety. And then you let it go, and now you have freedom and discernment. And so you can still hustle if you want, but you're doing it because you want to, not because you are compelled to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating. I never thought about that. It's like the person that thinks yoga is bad, right? And then they want to get rid of that limiting belief. So then they think, well, if I get rid of that limiting belief, then I'm going to move to India and be a yogi. I don't want that either.
Yeah, it's just all or nothing thinking.
Yeah. All right, and then I want to ask you one question, and you can be quick. I'm being selfish. I think I read somewhere that you've unlearned like 1,600 beliefs. I think you said earlier 2,000, which is a ton. Do you have any idea what was one of the beliefs that you removed that you think changed your life the most?
Yeah, man. I mean, the biggest change has come from the accumulation of clearing a lot of beliefs in different categories.
Sure.
So it's like once I learned this method and I started realizing I could teach myself, and I'd already done a lot, by the way, of like personal growth and self therapy and things that I was already kind of advanced with doing deeper stuff. So this kind of came to me and I was like, let me just learn this and do it to myself. Although at the beginning, I did have a friend that was helping me when I first got started. But yeah, I would divide it into the beliefs about self-worth, about work ethic, about women, relationships, and about money and failure, success. There's like the big buckets. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them that stand out. A big one was I had this belief it's not okay to relax. And that again came from my mom, because she was just like a bundle of nerves and stressed and anxious and depressed, kind of like at extreme level. And then coupled with my dad being disorganized, like it was just, she was trying to compensate for him not getting stuff done. And there's a lot of dynamics happening. But like I just remember walking down stairs in the morning on a Saturday, and this is a very typical experience on a Saturday. She's huddled over the kitchen table on a Saturday morning, and she's like has her to-do list, and she's like her shoulders are tight, and she's thinking about how she's going to get everything done today that needs to get done. And I didn't realize it at the time. That I created the belief, but years later when I found the belief, this is when I realized that this is where I created it subconsciously. That's when I created that belief. It's not okay to relax. And that's again, that was me just taking on what the family environment was showing me, is like, this is how we do things around here. And I just assumed, I guess I don't get to relax on Saturdays, where that's like, I just created that absolute belief. And so I struggled with back pain for my entire 20s, like this tingling knot in my left shoulder blade. And I would just get massages all the time and do different techniques and creams and trying to make it feel better. And it would alleviate it, but it wouldn't solve it. And then when it was 5 years ago, I found this belief. And once we cleared, I'll never forget, once we cleared that belief, it's not okay to relax, and we got to the end of the process, and I just had this big drop, and my left shoulder just like, I felt it drop. And since then, the back pain has almost been completely gone, like 70-80% completely gone. Like I don't feel anything in that shoulder blade area at all anymore. Actually, it's really just, there's nothing there. I still have like stuff in my traps that's like a different thing, I think. But like that particular like tingling knot thing that I was constantly focusing on in my 20s, never needed to focus on it again after that. In my early 30s when I cleared that belief, and it's been very profound to just let go of that.
Yeah. All right, so we're a little over time, but I mean, you want to do a live demo?
Yeah, man, I'm open to it if you're open to it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you're the expert. Your time's more valuable right now than mine. I'm totally open to it.
It's so fun too, and it's just fulfilling, and it always makes my day to help people let go, and it helps people listening, I think, to actually just have a visceral experience with all the ideas that I've been spouting conceptually, and now we get to see more in action. It could be really valuable.
Okay, what do you need from me? Where do I start?
Well, just tell me. I mean, if you already have a belief that you already know you have, then we could just go with it. But otherwise, you could tell me a little bit more about what the stressors are in your life. And I would find one.
I would like to be a little more pointed. But I'll tell you that a big limiting belief for me is that I don't believe I deserve success. Or no, rather, I believe that I don't deserve success. Like I don't deserve it. I haven't earned it. And I don't know how to get it more pointed for you.
That's a very core common belief. So that's powerful. And I'm curious, actually, like, do you feel at the conscious level, do you feel like you're successful? And it's just like this part of you? Or?
I don't know the answer to that. You know, money is always like never enough kind of thing. But I feel like I'm successful. I think things come relatively easy to me because I'll figure it out. I'll make it work. I will make it work. I always do. So I don't know how to answer you to be helpful.
Yeah, that's all good. I was just kind of curious because I think a lot of people have an experience of knowing on paper that they're successful.
Yeah.
But then still having the imposter syndrome.
Yeah, that I can relate to that.
Yeah. It's like, well, wait, look at it on paper. Like my client Shane is like, look, I'm making money. Why am I anxious about this? It's not. It's like this oppositional energy happening in my mind, right? I know it's not true, but then I keep having this thought, right? So again, it's the conscious versus the subconscious mind. So, yeah, it sounds like you've got different beliefs around success or money that would be, if we had more time, we could create like a whole list of all the different beliefs that are all contributing to the entire pattern of imposter syndrome. Like that's what I do with people is like, what's your top 3 patterns in your life? Imposter syndrome, money anxiety, inner critics, or whatever the biggest things are, procrastination. And then, okay, what would you have to believe to have those patterns, right? So the beliefs, we often have a lot of different beliefs contributing to the overall pattern. But what we're going to do today is we've pinpointed one belief already that's definitely a core root belief and clear that one out. And so I'm curious, when you say, I don't deserve success, where do you feel that in your body? I'm guessing you feel like some emotional response to that.
Yeah, when you said it and you asked me that, I feel my heart rate go up.
Yeah.
So maybe in my chest.
And how strong is that feeling? Scale 1 to 10, just out of curiosity.
That's like a 7.
Yeah. So that's definitely worth clearing. It's a significant belief. And so now, are you ready to do the process?
I think so, yeah. I'm ready for the results. That's for damn sure.
Okay, so just take note of that feeling in the chest, and then we'll check on it at the end.
Okay.
So, when in your life did you first conclude, I don't deserve success?
I don't know, because I've been thinking that's what I was going. When you first mentioned that you would do this, I've been thinking about, okay, well, what's the belief? And then I thought, okay, well, when did I realize that belief? Because you were talking about your mom and being hunched over the table. I think I learned it at maybe around 9 or 10.
Yeah, and whatever your subconscious kind of feeds you, like whatever the gut response is, that's the memory or the time period that we want to go to.
Okay.
So something around 9 or 10. Was there any specific events happening?
Yeah. Some kids in our neighborhood. I told you about my neighbor, like blue collar, purple collar, had broken into a house, and they were kids that I was with almost every day during the summer. Kids I went to school with, and I didn't. Like I chose not to. That was one of the things that I remember, but I got blamed for it anyway by my parents. And then another time, same thing. Some kids, similar, kind of an overlap with a group of friends, broke into a house. But one of the kids told me that it was fine. It was fine to go in because they were watching their cats while they were out of town. So I went in, and I remember like innocently going in. And then once I got in, I realized it was, a bad idea. And we ended up getting caught by the police. And it was like, I was in there, but I didn't choose to be in there for the reason that I'm getting blamed for. And I remember my parents being so mad at me and me thinking internally, like, damn, I'm a good kid. Like, I make good choices. I don't do the shit these other kids do. Yet I'm still being treated like a really bad kid. So then I thought, well, no matter what I do, I make these good choices, but it doesn't matter. So
Yeah,
maybe that's where that comes from.
that's really vivid and potent, and yeah, it's like melts my heart in compassion because there's so much. Yeah, it was a really tough experience, to have the cops catch you doing something like that when you're that age. That's gonna leave an imprint, man.
You've got to be kidding me.
So I think I can just pick up, like you had just described the memory, and I can just pick up from there.
Okay, cool.
Sound good?
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, just first of all, just feel a lot of compassion for that. Like, it's a tough experience to get caught by the cops, at that age. That's definitely going to leave an imprint. And so it makes sense that you would conclude I don't deserve success, given that. Yeah, so I'm just going to ask a few questions to see if we can look at this in some new interpretations, right? So is it possible that it's not the absolute truth about you as a person, I don't deserve success, but that another way to look at what happened is that you just made a mistake and you're learning as a kid, and you got caught up with a group that was doing something that was out of integrity, and it was just maybe it was a bigger learning opportunity, but it doesn't necessarily have to mean I don't deserve success is the truth about you. Is that another way to look at it?
Sure, yeah.
Is it possible that the reason your parents got so mad is not that it's the truth about you, I don't deserve success, but rather they just didn't know other ways, or that they had their own trauma that they reacted to your behavior and the event, and they didn't have other ways outside of punishment or blame or whatnot to actually connect with you and understand why you did it, and understand ways to move forward that was going to be beyond punishment and beyond shame and blame. And again, they got upset because they had their own beliefs, they had their own traumas or something like that was in their own psychology. And so the reason that they got so mad was 0% about you, I don't deserve success, and it was 100% about their own projections. Is that possible?
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. So maybe you were just seeking to get some needs met, You were trying to have fun with those kids, you were trying to get connection and belonging and acceptance with them. You also had an awareness of your integrity and respect of people's property, like people's houses, and so maybe it was just, again, you were attempting to do your best, but you just made an error. But it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the truth about you as a person. I don't deserve success. And also, it's just this whole paradigm around punishment, just being aware of this whole idea of punishing the kids from the parents or the cops, say you're bad kids, this whole idea of good kids, bad kids. It's maybe those are a bunch of kids you just didn't know, they didn't need more guidance, or maybe they didn't have the healthy environments that they needed to really feel, that sense of being an authentic person that's considerate and caring. Because maybe those other kids, they didn't get the consideration and the care and the empathy from their parents, and so that's this whole environment was the issue, maybe around putting kids into good versus bad. That was the whole paradigm. That was maybe the deeper issue, not that it's literally the truth about you as a human being. Absolutely, I don't deserve success. Is that possible way to look at it?
I think so. Yeah.
I know I'm kind of getting abstract there, but like,
Yeah.
so something along the lines of, you see how maybe it really wasn't about you as a fundamental default, but maybe there was like an environmental issue that you were reacting to around this whole assumptions about how to help kids grow was about like punishment, instead of let's connect and help them learn and rehabilitate, not just treat them like a dog, like go in the corner, but like you're a bad kid, but like trying to connect with them. Maybe that was something that the culture hasn't really figured that out yet. And so maybe it was about the culture being sick, not about you being sick. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And again, we can have compassion for all of that, because all those adults maybe just had their own experiences growing up. But like, so the culture has a lot of these things. So there's another way to look at it, just not even about this memory, but just, is it possible that it's not the truth about life? I don't deserve success, absolutely. But that there's just, you don't deserve success in certain things unless you perform at a certain level, or unless you create certain value, or like if you want success in business, that it doesn't mean that you automatically get it just because you want it. It's like maybe you need to actually be effective at sales and marketing in order to get that success. But it's just like dependent upon your skills and your actions, whether or not you get success in certain things. And so it's not necessarily an absolute truth about you as a human. It's just in certain contexts, you're going to deserve it based on how you show up for certain goals. Is that possible?
Yes.
Yes, maybe it's just contextual and depends on the situation. If you want to become a pilot, then you need to put in the training to become a pilot. And you don't deserve success as a pilot unless you've done the training. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it doesn't necessarily need to be like a core truth about you as a person. So, would you agree that I don't deserve success is just one interpretation of your experience that you had growing up?
Yes.
Yeah, and so what we did there in kind of like phase one of this process was just kind of like looking at this in some new ways and kind of loosening up the soil before we're going to invite this part of you to let go of that weed that is the belief. And so now I'm going to ask, when you look back to that memory, think about what you saw with your eyes. And so you saw the house, you saw those other kids, you saw the cop, you saw parents, you saw things, objects, people with your actual eyes. Did you actually see with your eyes, I don't deserve success?
No.
No. You just saw things, objects, people, certain facial expressions. But the actual concept you didn't see literally with your visual field. So, I'm guessing maybe you felt scared or nervous or worried or guarded or unsure or unconfident or insecure during these types of events. Does that resonate?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so those types of feelings, like again, you're like conflicted. You went into the house, part of you thought it was a good idea, part of you didn't. You're like unsure. It was like whatever description we want to give of what you felt. We're just looking at this objectively, which is our whole goal is to just literally get to truth. So looking at this objectively, you felt sensations in your body during these types of events, right? Which is called emotions. We describe that with different words like insecure or worried. But at the end of the day, what's actually happening is you felt sensations in your body. And maybe it was in that chest. Or maybe it was somewhere else. Yeah?
Okay.
So did you literally feel the concept, I don't deserve success? Or did you just feel the sensations?
I guess just the sensations.
Yeah, but if we just break that down, it's like the sensations are like heartbeat or blood pressure or nervous system shifts or breathing shifts or tension, right? We're just literally describing the sensation itself as a physiological experience, right? But the actual idea, I don't deserve success, is that happening in the actual physical, or is that just an interpretation?
No, it's just an interpretation.
And so you didn't see or feel the literal idea, I don't deserve success. So it's an interpretation. And so where did the interpretation happen?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, like literally, like where does interpretation happen when
Happens in
someone's
your
interpreting
head,
something?
in your mind.
Yeah, exactly. So again, we're looking for truth here, and we're trying to break down exactly what happened literally. So if we break it down like slow motion instant replay, you saw things with your eyes, you felt sensations in your body, and then you hatched a thought in your mind, I don't deserve success. Is that fair?
Not to me, no.
I mean, like, isn't the way I'm describing it, is that accurate? Like, does that seem correct? In terms of what literally happened. You saw sights, you felt sensations, and then there was a thought in your head.
Right. Yes, that's a fact.
Yeah. So you created this thought in your head, I don't deserve success. And it kind of got all conflated and mixed up with the sights and the sensations. But the reality is you actually hatched it in your own mind with your own neural pathway. Mm-hmm. And again, it makes sense that you did that because we're always trying to meet our own needs in some way or another. And that was the best way you could at the time to try to make sense of the situation, or maybe just cope, or even like comfort yourself, or prevent yourself from, having future pain in similar situations. Or just maybe just really just get clarity, like try to get some clarity about why this happened to you when you thought you were a person of integrity and solid kid, but then this happened. You were just trying to make sense of it because it was kind of confusing maybe. And so maybe in the short term it helped you get some short-term clarity. Does that resonate?
Yeah.
I think it's just helpful to realize the belief was created for some reason. It was at least attempting to try to help you, because it was an overwhelming experience. And so the last thing you need is like to not have an explanation for why you're having an overwhelming experience.
Right. Yeah.
Right? You see how that happens? That would just create even more overwhelm or more instability. So it can help you like cling on to something. At least you know why this happened. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so perhaps it helped you in some way at the time to believe that belief. Is it serving you now to believe it's the truth about you?
No.
No. And how would you say it's getting in the way now?
Well, the obvious, it gets in the way because that's, if you believe you don't deserve it, then why go for it?
Exactly. It's stopping you from going for what you want, and also maybe realizing that you've already succeeded in many ways and allowing yourself to celebrate that. And
you keep moving the definition of success.
Exactly. So you can achieve it at one level, but then this part of you keeps on firing the inner critic to get you to stay in conformity with this limiting belief. So keep moving the goalposts.
Yeah.
And so you don't get to enjoy it no matter what you do, and also maybe stops you from going after what you want. And it just creates just the suffering of having an inner critic at all. That's intrinsically getting in the way, So is there any part of you that's opposed to letting go of this belief?
No.
Yeah. And again, I'm not saying that it's the opposite. We're not saying I do deserve success is always true. We're just letting go of this absolute I don't deserve success so you can have freedom and discernment. And so I'll just add this little visualization part now. And I'm curious, is there a friend that you have right now that is a good friend that you can confide in, but this friend was not a friend when you were 9?
Yeah, I'm sure.
And what's that person's name? Or you could just make up a name, whatever.
Billy.
Okay. So just imagine that when you were a kid, you had your regular life, but then you also had Uncle Billy. So you had this trusting adult in your life that you could confide in. So you had your regular life, but then a few days a week, you'd also go to Uncle Billy's house. And it always just was like one of the highlights of your week because you could just hang out, relax, have fun, just talk about stuff, felt safe. And he didn't make you do stuff or expect you to do stuff. He just listened to everything that was going on. You just told him what was going on in your life, and he just empathized with you. And he really helped you be seen and heard and understood just for who you are. And it felt very relaxing and freeing to have this oasis to go to Uncle Billy's house. So imagine after this incident, or these incidents with breaking into the house, imagine that you went over to Uncle Billy's house and you just sat down on the couch and you just say, hey, I want to share about what's going on with all this. And you just tell him the whole story, everything about what happened and what you were worried about and your parents' reaction and all the things that you want to share. And he's just there and he's just listening and he's just empathizing and allowing you to be heard and seen for what was really going on for you. And it felt, just imagine you just got to do that, and it just felt relieving just to get it off your chest and have someone really hear you out and be on your side. And he just says to you, it makes complete sense that you would feel, unsure about that, Jeff, and that you felt insecure or worried, and that was a pretty overwhelming experience and maybe scary, and it makes sense to kind of feel nervous or ungrounded about what happened, and it makes complete sense. But I just want you to know that this is just one moment in your life, and it's really just an opportunity to learn and grow and reflect on what happened and what was motivating you and why you chose to do those certain things. And you don't need to beat yourself up about it. And when your parents yell at you, they're just really, they're trying deep down to try to help you grow as well. And they want their son to grow up to be a person of honesty and integrity and who respects people's property and things like that. And so that was really upsetting when they found out what happened, but they didn't necessarily know how to connect with you and to have a way that would help you grow ideally. So it was just scary when they yelled at you and stuff like that. But I don't want you to take all this personally and make this, I want you to think that I don't deserve success is the truth about you just because you had this one error. There's actually a lot of people in history who've had made errors along these lines, and they actually still turned out to flourish in many ways. And so I just want you to know that these feelings that you've been having, those are just like clouds in the sky, and they're just going to pass. It's just one moment. Doesn't mean it's who you are. And you just get to choose. You get to choose what story you give this right now. You can just choose that this is an opportunity to grow. You can just choose to be kind to yourself. And I don't want you to think I don't deserve success is the truth about you forever just because this one thing happened. So imagine that he had been there for you and he shared all that with you. And you'd been seen. If he had shared all that with you, would you have concluded I don't deserve success is the absolute truth about life?
No.
What would you have concluded instead?
That was a lot. That was a lot.
Yeah.
I'm not
One
sure
thing
what
you
I
might have
would have
thought.
concluded. That I just made a mistake, I think, is probably.
Yeah. Yeah, you made a mistake, and
Yeah.
that happens to all humans, maybe. You know,
Yeah.
you're just a human being. You made a mistake, and you can restore that. Maybe you would find out. Maybe there's a way that you could, write a letter to the people who own that house and apologize, or something that was like authentic to you to help make it better, or something. But you would just see it as a mistake rather than a fundamental flaw about who you are as a human being. And so let that all sink in. You did some real deep work there. And so now I'm just going to ask you to say a random sentence, because we're going to clear the palate. We did some deep work there. So say a random sentence that doesn't make any sense, and just say, the way to be a strawberry is to be a banana.
The way to be a strawberry is to be a banana.
Okay, so you don't feel anything in your chest when you say that? Doesn't sound true?
Mm-mm.
Say, the way to be a dog is to be a cat.
The way to be a dog is to be a cat.
Sounds ridiculous, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Say, I don't deserve success.
I don't deserve success.
How does that feel?
Distant.
What do you mean by that?
It feels abstract. It just feels like I just said something almost similar to the previous sentences.
Right. So was there any emotional charge reaction to that in your body?
Just now?
Yeah. Is there any
No.
emotional weight with that sentence? I don't deserve success.
No, there wasn't.
And so how does it feel in the chest?
Normal.
Yeah, I feel like I could be biased, but like it seems for me, just looking at the camera here, like you actually like dropped something, a weight dropped in your chest. Like you just feel like you're relaxed more. I don't know if that
Yeah, it just
resonates.
feels normal. Just nothing.
Yeah. So you feel lighter, or
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's deep stuff. So I can sense that it's like integrating now. So just let that like process. But like, I'm confident we pulled that weed out.
Yeah, time. I mean,
Is there any?
time, right? It's not like I don't feel like I just woke up from surgery or anything. Like, you know, time to process it.
Yeah. And is there any part of you that's just to double check? Like, you said it was a 7 out of 10 before. Is it at 0 now, or is there any little thing lingering that believes it's true at all?
Um, what I so I don't feel anything, but I also, to be fair, think I need to get out in the real world
Sure. Yeah.
to see. But yeah, I don't feel anything.
Awesome. So that's awesome, man. We did it. That's a totally normal response. Like, I'm confident that the belief is gone, and it's
Yeah,
not
you're
coming
the
back.
expert.
And it makes sense to like, there's a sense of like, let me see how this plays out. And so part of that is just this is the first time you've experienced it, the method. Part of it is, I also didn't say this earlier, is that we might have beliefs. Many of us have beliefs about change itself. This is the meta beliefs. So you have a meta belief that change can't be fast, or change won't last, or change has to be hard, or it's too good to be true, or nothing I do works. That can, if you see the logic of that, if you have those limiting beliefs, then that's going to create a filter about seeing and believing that the actual process is permanent and real. Because it is quite the value proposition to say, I can take these beliefs in 15 minutes, it's gone forever. And so I always say to people, it completely makes sense to be skeptical, and I don't want you to believe me just because I said so. And is it possible that, and I'm talking to listeners maybe more than anything, like if there's anyone out there that's like, I'm not sure if that's actually going to stick around. That's just a meditation that they did and he feels better now, but it's going to come back. Is it possible that there could be beliefs about the nature of change has to be hard, change can't be fast, change won't last, that are actually filtering your own response? So that's just something to marinate on for everybody. But I am confident that we have cleared that belief and it's not coming back, because we actually got down to the root of the matter, just helping you logically see that there is no proof in that memory that it actually is true. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and this is something that I think, are you open to people contacting you and like taking this for a test drive?
Yeah, man. If you're an entrepreneur and you're interested in at least some of the things I've said today, and you're like kind of fed up with some of this friction, if you're like, you want to do something, you have more to create and become, and then there's something like holding you back, or you're feeling like you're putting it off, that project or the business, or you're just feeling, and it could be the imposter syndrome, not feeling like you deserve success, or money anxiety, all sorts of patterns, whatever it is. And if you actually want to get to the root of it and subtract the root cause and be free of it, then happy to connect. And what I do for people is we just sort of do like a combination hybrid call, or like a deep dive / sample experience, where talk about what you want, talk about what's getting in the way, get an initial list of the specific beliefs that are causing the patterns, and then we can clear one of those beliefs, just like I just did for Jeff, as a sample experience. And I do that partially because I just love doing it, and partially because people can then actually viscerally experience it for themselves and recognize what's possible. Because it does make sense that it seems too good to be true, or it might be skeptical about it, and so it does help people see for themselves, because we've just assumed we've gotten a lot of messaging in our lives that things just have to be hard and stuff like that. But this is actually an effective tool, and it's different than almost every other tool. If you've done other things like therapy or the mindset work, coaching, meditation, trying to like manage the symptoms, but even like Tony Robbins, like you might be feeling pumped up after Tony Robbins, and then like 4 weeks later, you're like, the fear comes back because we haven't actually plucked out at the root. So if that resonates with you, happy to connect. My website's thehumanliberation.co, and you can just book a session with me, and that's my treat to you. And again, it's like a combination deep dive and sample experience. So it's thehumanliberation.co.
Awesome. Joel, this has been great. I appreciate it. Took up a lot of your time today, but thanks for sticking with me.
My pleasure, man. I like to go deep, so I like longer podcasts. And by the way, if people like podcasts, I also have my podcast, the Joel Bein Show. But yeah, thanks so much for everything you're doing, and I just appreciate the authentic conversation. And I hope everyone in your audience realizes that they're lucky to get to listen to somebody who's just real. That was what was really compelling about you when I first came across you, and just telling your story and the health stuff you've talked about, and it's just like vulnerable, and people really value that, especially nowadays, and just And thanks for being vulnerable right now on this podcast with that process.
I was like exposing my soul.
Yeah, it was. So that's to be commended, and hopefully that was, I imagine that many listeners were touched by that in some way, even just by the fact that you're being willing to be vulnerable, and that's going to ripple into the world and hopefully help them be more vulnerable with the people that they love. And that's a beautiful thing to show that in front of the world like that. And thanks again for everything you're doing.
You got it, man. Thanks for your time. This was great. And this has been All Can, No Can't. And until next time, I will absolutely look forward to seeing you guys again. Thanks for listening to All Can, No Can't. If today's episode resonated with you, remember, it's not about the chaos you face. It's about how you choose to take back control. It's about finding that one small can in the can't you're given and grinding it down. Find your angle, carve your place out in the world, and get the fucking win. Do that by finding what you can do and not listening to what you can't. You choose. Be sure to subscribe, share, and leave a review. Your support helps me reach more people that are ready to embrace the all-can mindset. And it lets them know there's someone that's willing to walk with them no matter how dark the path gets. You can find me on Insta at JDLuther 2.0 and allcan_no-can't. This is where I share more tips, stories, inspiration to help fuel your journey. And until next time, keep pushing boundaries, breaking limits, proving to yourself that anything is possible even when you're told it isn't. Remember, life's not about can't. It's all can. Go prove them wrong.